Hey tankers, it's Ace back with another one of my tank overview videos, and today we're looking at something a little bit different. We're looking at the Matilda Tier 4 Elite Medium Tank. Now it's elite for me because I got my Ace tanker on it, and that's the video I'm going to be showing you guys today. Um, really like this tank, and a lot of people might be frustrated with it, particularly because it is a low tier vehicle and it is a little bit difficult to play, but let me tell you, when you get that right game in it, it is a joy to play this tank. And really what makes this tank so special isn't its top speed, because it's slow, and its power to weight ratio on this tank is probably abysmal if I were to check. It is awful. Yeah, it's really bad. The tank's immensely heavy and really travels slow. Everything feels like a crawl. It does not feel like a medium tank. It really does feel like a heavy tank. But the tank is not bad. A lot of people hate on this tank, I think, probably because it's immensely slow, but trust me, in the right situation, the Matilda is probably one of the best tanks of its tier. And the reason why it's so good is probably has a lot to do with its gun. Uh, the penetration on this gun is amazing. 121 to 145 penetration at tier 4 is really impressive, and it's got a very high rate of fire too. The damage on it is pretty low, 55 isn't much, but because you can shoot so consistently, it's really impressive. And the other thing too is that the armor is also very impressive as well. In certain situations, it's literally almost impossible for this tank to be penetrated. And I think this is probably one of the reasons how come, even though the Matilda was probably obsolete, the British continued to use the vehicle throughout the entire length of the war. And it's the only tank that can actually say that actually started the beginning of the war at the very beginning and then made it all the way to the very end. So from 39 all the way to 45, the Matilda saw combat. And it really, I think, is a testament to how powerful and how well engineered this vehicle was. So let's go ahead and take a look here at my match I got in it, and you guys can kind of get an idea and see why this tank is so good in the right situation. Okay guys, so here we are on Sacred Valley. Now, this game did not go at all as planned, but we still managed to pull away a win. And what really blew me away on this match was just how I got really lucky, and I really played really well, despite the fact that the first start of this game is going to be pretty bizarre. And because this tank is so slow, and I don't want to be here for the entire length of this thing, and I don't think really guys I'm just going to show you how slow this tank goes for the short period of time, and then we're going to speed up to the kind of get to the action of things. So as you can see, the 20 kph on this tank is pretty slow. You're really not going to be going anywhere really quickly. You're going to have to be really careful where you situate yourself, and you kind of have to have a game plan ahead of time in where you're going to go in this tank. And usually you're going to have to commit to it. In this case, I really didn't commit, but at the same time too, it turned out to be a really important decision that had to be made. So on this map, obviously, there's really 2 points of interest that most people end up going. There's the northern area, which is where you're seeing the M4 and the M3 Lee go, and then there's the southern approach where there's kind of a temple and stuff, and usually these are the 2 points of interest where combat happens. There is a approach you can take through here. It is kind of risky because usually there's TDs that are lined here that can fire on you, and then there's also this lower approach where you'll see skirmishing happening. Because I'm a lower tier, I figured I'd maybe get some shots on the stuff that was situated up here on the top and kind of skirmish, but that never actually came to fruition because, or fruition, I think that's how you say it. I need to work on my vocabulary. Anyway, so I never really get in a position to actually fire on that stuff up north. And as I'm kind of moving around, I see an M3 Stuart sneaking around, and light tanks in the backfield, as I've mentioned before in prior videos, is a huge threat to artillery, and I'm a stickler for defending my artillery. So I start putting rounds repeatedly down on this M3 Stuart, just trying to shell him down as best as I can, but he does manage to get to cover before I can finish him. And I also see that M8A1 starting to sneak in behind the artillery, doing that same sneak move like this, and things are not going well up in north. So at this point, I figured the only thing I can do is just go back, defend artillery, and hope for the best. So let's speed things up while I try to creepy crawl my way back here. Things are dying, things aren't going well, we're clearly losing this match, but I'm just going to try to run back as fast as I can and help out and defend what's left of the artillery against that M881. That little light managed to die, so here we are. I get off 1, 2, 3. Every shot you're seeing is pinning pretty consistently, and that ram does literally nothing to me, and we get rid of that tank relatively quickly. Now, I'm faced with the dilemma here. I know those heavies, which are the KV and that T-14, which are both higher tier vehicles, are heading in my direction, and it's only going to be a matter of time before I run into them. And this tank's so slow, there's really nowhere for me to go. So I figured I'd just use this dead tank as cover, hope to God that it's enough, and I'm having trouble situating myself, but finally I get a position that I'm comfortable with. And even in this tank, it's really not necessarily needed, but slowing down any amount of damage you're going to be taking in a situation where you're running into two higher tier vehicles at full life is really important. So I switched to gold rounds for this. These tanks are higher tier vehicles. I'm going to need all the pin I need. I take out the building so I can keep shooting them. And I just continuously stay focused. The M4 is using HE, and it is going to hurt me a little bit. But I just have to keep shelling out damage and slowly burn him away. And while this is happening, I'm getting nervous because that KV is closing on me, and he is shooting. But I have to stay focused. That T-14 makes a mistake showing me his broadside, and I take him out. And the KV bounces a shell, I repair, and now we start to hug. And it's round for round, but my rounds are going through, and his are not. And even though necessarily I don't have like the DPM to usually make this work, I do have the penetration, and I'm able to continuously shell him, but he's not going to be able to pen me as consistently. And sure enough, I slowly but surely take him out. And that was my ace for this tank. I mean, just crazy damage. I fired 33 shots and did 1,771 damage on a tier 4 match with a gun that only does 55 average damage. So there you have it. There's the Matilda, and kind of an oddball game, but this was my ace tanker, and I ended up getting high caliber out of it as well, so it really was a good match for me. And if you are playing the Matilda, do not be afraid of using this tank, and just remember that it is heavily armored, and while it may not have necessarily a lot of damage, just continuously shoot, and with those high caliber weapons, you do have a little bit of forgiveness. So thank you so much for watching my videos. If you guys have any comments, feel free to leave them down in the description. And as always, this is Ace Stallenbach signing off.